Hello friends, and welcome back to the Science Broadcast. A hypothesis that the coronavirus, the novel coronavirus, has been escaped from a Henan lab in China is gaining some traction, and I want to talk about it because there are some important distinctions here. Even if the virus had escaped from that lab, the virology lab, that is not proof that the virus was manufactured. It is very likely, I should say it is more likely, that the Chinese government had identified the virus, was trying to contain it, and they failed to contain it, rather than that the Chinese government was able to manufacture a virus of this complexity and then unleash it into the world. I do not say that because I have any great love for the Chinese government or the communist regime. I just don't have a lot of faith in Chinese science or the lack thereof. A coronavirus is a very complex thing to create, and we have not seen any signs of manufacturing the virus. In other words, we don't see any sloppiness in the genetic code. We don't see any indication that the virus is not something that evolved naturally in nature. So, are we doing the right things into pursuing this, or should we be doing other things? Well, in science, one of the fundamental tenets is that we try to find the truth. Not the truth as we perceive it, not the truth as it meets our needs, not the truth as we would like it to be, but the truth as it is. I, along with other scientists, think it's highly unlikely that the virus was manufactured. However, if there is even a piece of evidence that indicates that that might be the case, we ought to explore it. My thoughts are not knowledge, and again we've talked about knowledge and belief. My thoughts are more on the belief side. I think it is not very possible, but I do not know if it is true or not. So as we always do in science, it makes absolute sense for us to investigate further. It makes absolute sense for us to make sure that this is not only manufactured but also potentially altered by Chinese scientists for whatever nefarious reasons. So a lot of people will say, well, look, science was wrong. Unlike other thought systems, in science, we kind of do not mind being wrong, because that's how knowledge progresses. If you look in history, you're going to see that for long periods of time, humanity operated under certain assumptions that were then proven by science to be incorrect. On occasion, science has indeed been wrong, and not admitting that this was the case is just silly. It is very important for us to figure out if this virus, first of all, was altered in any way, secondly, was trying to be contained and escaped, and thirdly, if in any way or form it was manufactured by the Chinese government. If it was manufactured by the Chinese government, I think our response should be immediate, absolute, and unquestionable. Any government that uses resources in its disposal to create something like that should be held accountable, and the world should hold the Chinese government accountable if indeed that was something that they did do. Again, from a scientific perspective, I'm doubtful, but that's why we need to find out. We should not have doubts about things like that. It is critical that we know. It is critical that when we say this was a natural created virus, we are confident to 99.99%, which is the scientific confidence, that what we say is true. And we should not be afraid to investigate things just because what we initially thought might be wrong. Again, the problem here is not someone's pride. The problem here is not demonstrating that science is infallible. Science is not infallible. The most important issue here is truthfulness, and if mistakes were made, to uncover them and put things in place so further mistakes do not take place. And of course, accountability is important. If the Chinese government was working on something, we need to know what it was and why. If it was a virus for reasons of attacking other nations, we need to have a swift response to that. If it was something else that by accident developed to this, we need to figure it out so we can eliminate it. So knowing the truth is always a good thing. Knowing the truth can help us solve the problem. Not knowing the truth but pretending we know the truth is always a horrible idea. It's something we should avoid. It's something that doesn't make sense. So I maintain, and again this is my opinion, not knowledge, that it is highly unlikely, and I do not believe that the Chinese developed this virus. However, I cannot be certain of that, and therefore investigating fully if it is the case or not, it is extremely appropriate. And whatever that investigation uncovers, then it is upon us to make sure that we take that knowledge and apply it to both better contain this situation and avoid it in the future. Science is ultimately about the truth. It's not about being right or wrong. Science has no ego. Scientists do not have political affiliations, religion affiliations, or anything else that compel us to hide the truth for another purpose to emerge. The truth is all we're looking for. In truth, we find power, because knowledge is power. Farewell, friends.